coming to you live from the Tino Studios in Minooka, Illinois. I'm your host, Bucky Shanks, and this is Tino Tonight. Welcome everybody to the National Championship Bracket edition of Tino Tonight. After 2 weeks off, we're ready to finish up strong to close out the 2021 season. To give you guys a rundown on the schedule, we're going to reveal the championship bracket only tonight, as that is the only thing kicking off this week. Week 15, we will reveal the minor bowls as well as the Elite Eight. Followed by week 16, we reveal the major bowls and the final four. And week 17 is the national championship. And with that being said, let's reveal the 2021 National Championship bracket. We start with the top of the bracket. Coming in as the number 1 seed and winners of the ACC, Florida State. The Seminoles enter the tourney 12-1. Head coach Cam Bishop leads his group to the tourney for the third time in 3 years and will look to advance to the Elite Eight for the first time in school history. Florida State is an impressive 7-1 this year versus the top 25. So, with that being said, who will Florida State be facing? The number 16 seed Kansas State Wildcats from the Big 12. Head coach Sean Hennessy had a career 5 wins in 2 seasons entering 2021. His Wildcats went 8-4 on the year and find themselves in the postseason for the first time. This is the first meeting between these two schools. Tino had Florida State as a 102.5-point favorite. Next up, the 8th seed from the Big 12, the Oklahoma Sooners. Head coach Kenny Bellafuck enters the tournament for the second time. The last time we saw Bellafuck in the tournament, it ended with confetti falling on his head and a trophy being raised. The Sooners finished the year 9-4 after losing to Baylor in the Big 12 title game. Oklahoma, well, they'll be taking on the number 9 seed out of the Big 10, the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue finished the year 9-4 after losing to Penn State in the Big 10 title game. This is head coach Connor Petschke's first trip to the postseason and first meeting with Oklahoma. Tino has Oklahoma as 15-point favorites. A quick look at the top quarter of the bracket. Number 1 Florida State taking on number 16 Kansas State, and number 8 Oklahoma taking on number 9 Purdue. Moving on to the second quarter of the bracket, the number 5 seed Oregon Ducks, winners of the Pac-12, sit at 11-2, riding an 8-game winning streak. Head coach Jack Lang's second career playoff appearance. Last time they were in the dance, they fell just short, losing to Oklahoma in the national title game in 2019. If they're going to make it back for another shot at the title, they're first going to need to get through the number 12 seed out of the SEC, the South Carolina Gamecocks, currently 8-4. Head coach Jason Hughes makes his playoff debut. After combining for 5 wins in the first 2 seasons, Coach Hughes breaks through and makes it to the playoffs. This is the first meeting between these two teams, and Tino has the Ducks as 82-point favorites. Next up, the number 4 seed, the winners of the Big 10, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State joins the field at 11-2 after beating Purdue in the conference title game. The 2020 Bill Belichick Trophy winner, Coach Scott Babowich, has his team back in the field of 16 to defend their crown. Penn State comes in winners of 3 straight, and they'll be taking on the number 13 seed out of the Big 12, the Kansas Jayhawks. Head coach Tyler Hopper has to be licking his chops with this matchup. For those who don't remember, Penn State beat Kansas to win last year's national title by 1 point. Coach Hopper is making his 3rd straight trip to the playoffs. This group has finished no worse than the Final Four in its first 2 trips, and Tino isn't showing much respect to the Jayhawks as they currently sit as 130-point underdogs. With the top half of the bracket complete and all set, here is a quick look at the matchups. Coming in as the number 6 seed from the SEC, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Head coach Adam Guthrie brings the Hogs back to the playoffs for the second time. They were knocked off by Michigan State in the Sweet 16 in 2019. 2020, Arkansas won the Outback Bowl. This year, Arkansas went 11-2 and finished as the runner-up in the SEC. And they'll be taking on the number 11 seed Iowa Hawkeyes out of the Big 10. Head coach Jamie Lewis makes his postseason debut after going 9-3 this season. Iowa's first 2 years were spent rebuilding, going 3-8 in 2019 and 0-11 in 2020. Arkansas and Iowa have never met. The Tino opening line has Arkansas as an early 46-point favorite. Next up, the number 3 seed SEC champion Auburn Tigers. Head coach Tim Bingham makes his second straight trip to the playoffs. After a pair of 7-5 seasons and a Sweet 16 loss last year, the Tigers won 11 games this season. Auburn currently sports the best resume, going 8-1 versus ranked teams with a pair of wins over number 1 ranked teams. This group is battle-tested and ready to make a deep playoff run. Standing in their way, however, the number 14 seed out of the Big Ten, the Ohio State Buckeyes. After missing the playoffs last year, the Buckeyes make their way back to the playoffs for a second time. This is the first meeting between Auburn and Ohio State. Both teams have a career 0-1 record, with both teams losing to Tennessee in the Sweet 16 in 2019 and 2020. Bet Tino has Auburn as 61-point favorites. A quick look at the third quarter of the bracket. The number 6 Arkansas Razorbacks taking on the number 11 Iowa Hawkeyes, and the number 3 Auburn Tigers taking on the number 14 Ohio State Buckeyes. On to the final quarter of the bracket, the number 7 seed out of the Pac-12, the UCLA Bruins, led by head coach Brian Jones. The third straight tournament appearance for this group. UCLA was upset in the Elite 8 last year by Washington. A win in the Sweet 16 would give UCLA back-to-back double-digit win seasons, but they're looking for a bigger prize than double-digit wins. UCLA currently riding a 7-game winning streak, and they'll be taking on the number 10 seed from the ACC, the Virginia Tech Hokies.
For the first time in school history.
Head coach David Llewellyn makes his second trip to the playoffs. He took the Hokies to the Elite 8 in 2019 and won the Rose Bowl in 2020. Virginia Tech and UCLA are not strangers, as this will be the third time these two have faced each other. UCLA won the first meeting in Week 1 of the 2020 season. Virginia Tech got even in Week 2 earlier this year. Bet Tino opened with UCLA as 9-point favorites. Next up, the number 2 seed out of the Big 12, Lanny Strong's Baylor Bears, making their second straight trip to the playoffs, coming off a 12-1 regular season and winners of the Big 12. Baylor went 5-1 versus the top 25 this season and will look to get their first playoff win after a Sweet 16 loss to Kansas last season. And they will be taking on the number 15 seed out of the Big 10, the Wisconsin Badgers. Head coach Matt Brostowitz makes his second trip to the playoffs after missing last year. First trip ended with a Final Four loss to Oklahoma. Wisconsin finished the regular season 9-3. Bet Tino has Baylor as massive 130-point favorites. And that completes the bottom half of the bracket. Your field of 16 has been set. Everybody is chasing a national title. Good luck to all the teams that qualified for this year's playoffs. Better luck next year to the rest of us. The regular season is complete, the conference titles are complete, the field of 16 has been set, and now it's up to one of you 16 to win 4 in a row and etch your name in Tino history with the greats from Oklahoma and the greats from Penn State. Who's going to be next? Nobody knows. We'll find out in about a month. And that being said, that'll do it for all of us here at Tino Studios inside Buckingham Palace. I'm your host, Bucky Shanks. Good night, everybody!